Well, hey everyone. I thought I would try something different, so I am making a kind of a video journal, if you want to call it that, devlog, whatever. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Robert, but I have different online handles for different communities. Probably the one I post in the most would be the stencil community, and my username Merrick. Um, on Reddit, I think it's John Bartleby. I don't remember what my username is on Twitter. I just have that saved, and hopefully, it's when I log in, it's still logged in. I do have it written down somewhere. But I want to talk about my game that I've been working on, and especially on the stencil community, I like to write a lot about the challenges I face and kind of how I approach them. Of course, the one I'm showing right here is the isometric game, and it's mostly about programming problems and different issues I run into and how to solve them. But then, okay, so the game I was working on with the isometric game, let's see if I can find this in here somewhere. I forgot what page it was. It's buried in here. Yeah, I'll just pull it up here. This game, Towers of Vallas. Kind of a Game Boy inspired game, isometric adventure game, and I'm more or less done with it actually. So what is Vallas? What is Towers of Vallas? And this goes all the way back to what would be 2013 or something when I first picked up Stencil. I thought I'd make a game to promote a book I was writing. It had nothing to do with this world called Vallas. It was something else. And I decided that it didn't really seem like a good idea. So I would just make up a whole new world, new characters, places, everything. And names, I don't like to really wrestle with names. So a lot of these names come from either like name generators. Like I have a whole little list of bookmarked name generators. One of my favorites is called Chaotic Shiny. You just go and generate all kinds of things. Really useful for things like NaNoWriMo, by the way, because you don't want to get caught up on, inconsequential things. Or other like favorite books or things that I just pull the names from weird sources. So I had this game called Thief of Vallas that was not very good. It's my first game. Thought, it was fun to work on. It's just I didn't know much about game design, and eventually I got onto this isometric perspective game. I thought it would be fun to make a RPG, like an action RPG, kind of like in the style of Diablo, but a little more keyboard control. And there we go. Finished it, and I haven't released it yet. Why have I not released this game? I mean, it's done. I paid to license music and put a couple of years into it, and it's ready to go. I thought, well, maybe I could give it away as a freebie, and to help promote another game. And really, the main reason I haven't released it yet is because when I got to the end of it, I realized this isn't really where the story begins. It really begins sooner. So I had this other game I worked on, it's sort of a 2D variant for one of the stencil jams. I think the 2018 one. Of course, the isometric one dates back to 2016, the spooky stencil jam. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's basically a contest. You have 10 days to make a game in stencil, which is, by the way, what you're looking at right here on the screen. And that's that. The 2016 one, we had Hurricane Matthew coming to North Carolina, and no power for 5 of those days. And I sit in my kitchen with the laptop and just kind of hoping that the battery doesn't die and I can get as much production as I can done in the dark and have a little candle. And half the town had power, so during the day I'd run to the other half of town where I had my office at work and plug in the laptop chargers and charge all the batteries and come back home and work a little bit more. But then the 18 one, I'll make a 2D variant, and I thought, well, that might be a fun project. So how's it going? Well in some ways, not well in some other ways. I mean, that's usually how these things go. And I thought I would share a little bit about where I am because I'm making some progress. But I wanted to talk about level design. So I like to talk about the challenges I face and how I approach them. and the programming side is going pretty smoothly. It's the other aspects of the game, namely the level design. It just seems strange to me that I'm having trouble with that because, when I was little, like that that tractor feed paper that you would buy to put in old dot matrix printers, and it had little holes on the side to feed the paper through the printer, and it'd be in one continuous sheet. So my dad would bring home like the legal size version of this for me and my brother to play with when we were little. And we had a really long coffee table in our living room. So what we would do is we would take the printer sheet paper and lay it out across the table, and we would fill it full of drawings of levels of our favorite games. And the three I remember, there was a somewhat obscure DOS game called, and these were all DOS games, by the way, with one exception. Vampire Talisman Invocation or something like that. It's one of those top-down RPGs. But we filled up a whole ream of that paper with vampire levels, and we drew out what we would do if we could make our own little world. And then we had a Prince of Persia levels, and of course Mario. Now we didn't have either a Super Nintendo or a regular Nintendo, but of course we knew what Mario was. I mean, this was the 90s. They had the Mario TV show and all that stuff, so we knew what it was, and we make Mario levels even though we didn't. We had Commander Keen, which looking back, I think is a much better game, particularly in terms of graphics and sound. And we had Zargon, Commander Keen, Jill of the Jungle. These were classic DOS games. But, all of our friends had Nintendo, so, Mario's the thing everyone would talk about. And yeah, we just waste hours just drawing levels for these games. And now here I am as an adult and now I can bring these ideas to life. But it's difficult. So why is it difficult? And that's just, I thought about this and I realized that, so little kids, they're creative. Like their imaginations aren't bound by reality. Of course, I know that every idea I come up with, I'm going to have to program. So my brother has a son. He's in 5th grade right now, of course. This took place a couple years earlier, but I told him I was working on a game. I was working on the isometric Rogue of Vallas game, and I asked him, help me design some levels, and he drew out all these levels for the game. And I realized we were working on different games eventually because he came up with ideas for having a baker, and I thought, okay, well, I might help him make his game. But he came up with all these ideas, and I was thinking, well, I can't program all this, much less draw all the images, like all the characters. I have to draw all those sprites. But I just listened right off these ideas, and, when me and my brother were little, we certainly could do that as well. So I got to thinking a little bit, maybe I should just start sketching things and see what happens. And I've kind of maybe stumbled upon something that I think is working. So I'm just trying to figure out things as I go along. Of course, I've read some advice on different, cadences is some advice I've read. But I've been thinking, just sketch something, see how it goes. And I like what the theme, I like the trend that's emerging. Because I sketched a level, and it was difficult. But then I thought, well, what if I give the player a tool in a different level they can use to sort of trivialize the threat? So let me dig through some of my levels here. I can kind of explain what I mean. There's one I'm working on. Nope, that's not the right one. There it is. I'm working on this one. Level 2, I think this is one that the player is going to run into a little bit later. So here, I'm not done with this yet, and you can see I have these fake tiles I use to kind of temporary placeholders. So you have these bad guys, of course, but then you have these things, the turret towers. When you get over to about here, these turret towers I just kind of accidentally placed in a particularly nasty spot. It's just really tough to get through this area. You can do it. It's just hard. But if I give the player a knife that they can use to aim and sort of snipe them, then it's a somewhat trivial obstacle. And I kind of like the way this is developing because, I never played Mega Man. I mean, I know that's a classic. I played it much later. So when I got to college, someone had a PlayStation 1 with a Nestor CD, and I finally got to play a lot of these classic games. In the Mega Man, I remember the gimmick in that game was every boss had a weakness, and when you defeated the boss, you can get a power, and that power might be the weakness for the next boss. So kind of a Metroidvania kind of thing. I'm not sure I'm using that term correctly, but what I'm trying to set up here is really more of a Metroidvania kind of thing where every section is blocked by a key in a different part of the level. Of course, it's not one continuous level, and maybe I'm misusing the term now. But every level has some gimmick, but you can go into another level and get a new tool. And the early levels are sort of a 1-to-1 ratio. There's one obstacle and one tool, and they kind of teach the player how to use these tools. And then in later levels, I'll mix up challenges, and the player is really more on their own going to have to figure out how to overcome them. But here it's pretty much one challenge and one tool you use to defeat that challenge. So this level I think is coming along pretty well. So each level has a few different variants. It's a lot clearer in level 1. So actually, let me run the game and I can show you. By the way, just to give you kind of an overview of the game, it is a 2D action RPG platformer. The main gimmick in the game is that you have to gain experience and find books and use the experience to learn from the books, and that teaches you new skills, which is pretty much what I had set up in the isometric Game Boyish game. It was kind of the same thing. You gain experience points, you find books, and you need a certain level of experience to read from the books, but that will give you new skills that allow you to proceed through the rest of the game. And I mentioned that I don't think the story really begins in the Towers of Vallas game. And one of that is I've set up a little bit of a cast of characters, and one of the characters is Rada, the prisoner. And there he is when you find him in level 1. And I wanted to bring him back because I need some way to kind of pass off the information to the player so they know, okay, be looking for these clues to help you figure out what to do next. So I thought, well, he can give advice and work him into the story. So a lot of the things I'm explaining, the player wouldn't have to figure out for themselves. They would be guided in the form of getting advice from different NPCs. But I don't really like tutorials, so I didn't want to just have pop-ups and text. I want to try and make it, a tutorial level that feels like, a challenge and part of the game and isn't just, a wall of text that tells you, okay, do this, 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 and then you're good to go. So this is tentatively titled Rogue of Vallas. Dawser Episode 1. So by the way, that the Stencil Jam game I was talking about, from 2016, that was Temple of Idosra. It's no longer canon, but a similar game will show up later in the series. So I'm working on the details of the storyline, but it unfolds in that direction. Just to kind of give you a brief overview of the world, it's kind of a post-apocalyptic world. It starts in the year 7775, but I think a better way to describe it is more of a renaissance, because post-apocalyptic typically refers to the first few days or years after an apocalypse where everything is destroyed and everyone's in distress, and here we have a world that's sort of re-emerging. So I think a more of a renaissance kind of take is a little bit better than post-apocalyptic, but yeah, it does take place in the far future. So these are all keyboard controls, and except let's see, I'm going to continue a game here. They're all keyboard controls, except there is precisely one thing you can do with the mouse. Poke. Yeah, I like Easter eggs, so I'm certainly throwing in a lot of those. Anyway, the main character here, her name's Marika. She's named after there is a well-known book on fiction writing called Making Shapely Fiction. I don't remember what the author's name was. James Stern, I think. James something. I have the book somewhere in my house. I just don't have it with me. But if you're interested in fiction writing, it's a very good book. I think it's a classic, I think. I took a fiction writing course in college, and that's the book we used. But he has several different, snippets of stories, and I don't think they're actually full stories. But when I needed to come up with a name, I just happened to have that book, and I flipped through it, and there was a line that went something like, this was an example of something, I don't remember what. Marika and Hovind hated each other with the delicious hate of tart lemonade, was the line. So I just went with the name Marika. So I'm going to load a game, but I'm going to have to kind of die to get to the main map. So drop down, and then there, accept fate. So this is the map. So here's level 1. By the way, this is a terrible interface for selecting levels. I know that. I'm going to replace it. I just have not done that yet. Now, I'm not going to launch level 1, but yeah, there's level 1. You actually start the game in level 1, so you have to be at least the first level to get to the map. And when you get to the end of the first level, you found the axe, and the gimmick with the axe is that you can throw it in kind of an arc. So level 2, you have to unlock these later levels. So what you're going to have to do is, after you beat the first level, this will be the only other place you can go, as a town called Lyrica. And, well, I haven't set, this doesn't go anywhere yet. But Rada, the prisoner, will be there, and you can unlock him, and he'll kind of give you some hints. So he's going to say, okay, you have two options. You can go back to Empire Outpost and start the second level, and this will kind of force you to learn how to use the axe a little bit better. Or you can go over here to Conquered Lands and learn how to use the knife. And the level I was showing you a moment ago, that's the first level of Conquered Lands. I don't have that one done enough to really illustrate how the knife works and how the kind of the premise of the game works, but I can show you level 2, High Security Compound. With the exception of the first room, this level is more or less complete. Of course, I might make some tweaks. But let me run this. So yeah, like I said, the first room is not done, but everything else is. So here's the knife. And by the time the player gets to this level, they would have been introduced to the mechanics of the knife. Let me see what I've loaded here. So, yeah. So you pick up books. When you pick up a book, you can read it, and you sort of spend experience points to pick up these skills. So yeah, I've loaded a game where I have some of these skills already loaded. Some of the first ones are quality of life skills, but probably one of the most important ones is Scout, because that's going to allow you to see into rooms ahead and kind of make a plan. Algebra, okay, so I'm a mathematician, so I have to work in a few little mathy things just because. Algebra actually will let you get the little dots that tell you where your weapon is going to go. So for the axe, in fact, do I have an axe? I do have an axe. So you can see the little dots. You need the algebra skill to do that. And then the knife, you can actually aim the knife. So the knife is actually a nicer weapon, although it's not as powerful. So the player would kind of learned already before they get to this level how to deal with this. But you see these little placards here? Oop, I don't want to do that. So you can scout in the next room. You can see that is kind of a trap room. These little Pentagon Rooms, by the way, my very first stencil game, so the original Thief of Vallas game, I had these little Pentagon Rooms. It had a fireball launcher thing at the top, and I feel like that's really kind of an homage to some of my first stencil games because I had that room in there. So that's that Pentagon Room. There's actually a few different variants of this, and it's really, I'm trying to experiment with the concept of cadences. So I set up a kind of a repeated challenge, and I tweak it a little bit as the player progresses through this map. So I'm going to snipe. So yeah, you can start aiming. If you have the scout skill, you can start aiming next rooms. So yeah, you can run through this. And I'll just run through it. And that's not too difficult here to run through this. You can run through that. let me go back and show you how to properly do this. So the later rooms are harder to run through like that. But you see that there's a little meter there thing? That's a sensor. If you snipe that, there, I got it. See how it's broken now? So yeah, that thing can actually, it can't see you anymore. Now on the development side, okay, so those of you that are familiar with Stencil, I actually, oh, well, that's what I get for not paying attention. Dang. Anyway, what I was about to say is, if you're familiar with Stencil, so you can attach behaviors to actors to give them, different functionality. And I like the way I programmed that turret, because basically what happens when you snipe that little sensor is it just disables one of the behaviors. So I'm kind of like a virtual robot. You disable one of its behaviors, it can't see the player anymore, and it just starts. That's a failure mode that's programmed into that thing. So let me not die. Oh, I have to start in here again. At least I saved this game where I read all the books. By the way, just to show you how that works. See, I don't have enough experience to read it. Okay. So I have to earn more experience, which, by the way, the number in the upper right corner, that's not your score. That's your experience you've earned in the level. Okay, let me do a better job here, not get killed. Okay, that's down. Okay, so little gems, too. So the gems serve two purposes. One is I'm trying to guide the player in the right direction with the little point power-ups. But second, the quicker you pick those up, the more points you get, so you gain more experience by running through the level faster. Okay, so this guy, we're going to have a knife duel. Of course, their programming is not quite complete, but he does get confused if you injure him. Whoops. The little pressure switches there are a trap. We got this room. So I don't have. Okay, so I only have one axe. Trying to talk and play this at the same time is not going terribly well. I only had one axe, so I could snipe him with the axe, or I could snipe him, I guess, with the knife from the next room. But in some of the levels, you pick up gold, and when you get gold, you can go to a store and buy power-ups, and that actually adds the number of power-ups in the level. So you can replay levels if you want and try and get a better score. I probably don't need to take that down. You can replay levels and try and get a better score. And when you do that, I thought I had killed him. I swear, this game's not quite as hard as I'm making it look. I'm just trying to concentrate on talking. Here, we're going to take you out. There. So, I forgot what I was going to say now. Oh yeah, you can get gold and increase the number of power-ups, and then replay levels and get a better score. So, yeah, there's a piece of gold. Let's see if I can get up here before he sees me. Yeah, they do have ray casting to make sure if they can see you or not. These guys, I should program them so they can see further ahead, but there's a certain distance where they just can't see you at all, and I think I made that too short. But that actually helped me out here. Alright, so room 2. This is a bit more of a challenge, and I only have 2 knives, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this. Let's see, here's another Pentagon Room. This one's kind of tough. That guy, I think he's just a regular bad guy. Yeah, he didn't throw anything at me. But then in here, yeah, there's a guy that's a knife guy. And I don't have enough weapons to kill him from here. Like, I have one knife, but he has too many hit points. But, and I might need to make changes to make this a little bit more fair. If you jump from the right spot, you can get, yeah, over there without having the ledge hang. Like, if you have to hang on the ledge and climb up, he'll probably kill you before you actually get to the top. There. Okay, now there's another room here. It can also be a challenge. Okay, so the little placards denote where the trigger is for the turret. Oh, shoot. I did not mean to use my knife. Well, yeah. Fortunately, I saved, so we get to try this again. See if maybe I can kill him without wasting my knife. that guy. We'll have a little duel. Got through him. Now this room, let's see if maybe I can get him with an axe. So, okay, if you trigger one of those turrets, you can run further away. Oh, he's off screen. Yeah, he's not. I don't think I killed him. Okay. I might need to tweak the difficulty of this a little bit. But I can save that. Now I don't have enough hit points to go down there, but there is a knife down there. Maybe I can go maybe up here. See, I ran through that. So you run through it faster, you get some bonus points. And maybe I go up here. I tell you what, this is. There we go. Okay, so at least I'm not dying now. So let's see if I can maybe get that knife. This is a little risky, but I'm going to try and go this way. Oh, well, good shot. I think you get the idea. I don't know, I've been having a lot of fun making this. I can't say these levels are polished. I think the difficulty here may be a little too high, but oh, I missed. It's supposed to be a puzzle. You know, you're supposed to have to think a little bit about how to defeat each of these challenges. Which really, if I think about the Prince of Persia games, you know, with Prince of Persia, trial and error was kind of the gimmick of that game. I didn't like the time limit though, and that I don't have a time limit here. With practice, I'm doing a little bit better. He sees me. Never that. See, I can run through here. Maybe I can sneak up on this guy and get the knife. Okay, I'm gonna try and take a shortcut. Oh, I missed my elevator. Well, I have to at least see if I can beat this level for you all. Not that you get anything for doing that, but I have to at least try. Well, can I get up there? No. Okay. I have 8 knives now, so that actually gives me a good chance of getting through here, except I didn't want to waste them on him. I'll kick him. Oh, axe guy. Wow. Okay. He has, there we go. Okay, so double placard. I don't remember what I'm trying to warn here, but I think, yeah, it's this room. Yeah, trying to code the ledge hang on those moving elevators was kind of, whoa, I missed. That was kind of a challenge. See if I can not miss here. Okay, we're doing better. We got a heart, 15 hit points now. Oh, okay, so look in the upper left here, there's a little lightning bolt here. I have move points. That's more useful later in the game, because I didn't want, like, you lose them very easily. That's really more when you get certain skills. You can use the move points for power-ups. You're kind of restricted to normal attacks when you run out. And very early in the game, your attacks do almost no damage if you run out of moves. But very quickly, you can get skills like punch focus, so it'll kind of negate that. So it's really more of a bonus to have move points and not strictly required once you get some of those quality of life skills. I should have triggered that. Fortunately, when you trigger these things, you have to get pretty far away from them to get them to calm down. But now we can snipe. There we go. And this is knife duel. Oh, I wasted a knife there, but that's okay. He won't be able to see me. Maybe I can snipe him. Well, I'm not getting that. And that door doesn't work. So that's kind of the end. And I think that's actually the end of this video. So if you made it this far, thank you for watching. And maybe in another update, I'll talk a little bit more about, you know, level design further down when I maybe get a better handle on what I'm doing. But for now, well, say this is it, and see you next time.